What is going on here? Oh, okay. In letter C and letter D, my opinion, I think that it's best to just take a look at the picture. If you were in my Algebra 2 class last year, we talked about something called transformations, which is how you change something around. So you might recall that if you're talking about square root graphs, that the general square root graph starts at the origin and goes off to the right like that. So here's a picture of the general square root graph, which means that the graph that we're seeing here, this picture, has actually been moved to the right 3 units. 1, 2, 3. So it actually looks like this. Now you could graph this on your calculator, you could use a table, but if you have an understanding of transformations, it is much faster to just know that it's been moved to the right 3. Why? Because now I can tell you that my domain starts at 3 and goes to the right forever. I can tell you that my range starts at 0 on the x-axis and goes up forever. So domain means x's. I'm just to the right of 3. And range means y's above the x-axis. Part D is a little bit different. It's just been moved up 3. So it's the same kind of graph, but its location is a little bit different. So in this particular case, my domain starts at 0 and goes to the right forever. And my range starts at 3 and goes up forever. So the picture is extremely helpful with square root graphs. Questions about either of those? Let's pause, take a walk. Okay, last two. In these next two, for some reason these seem to be a little bit confusing to people, so pay close attention. Each thing, whenever you see a letter with a parentheses, is an instruction to go back and look at the equation. Here's our equation right over here. 3x minus 1. And I'm going to look in there and I'm going to plug in the parentheses stuff into that. So for example, I'm looking at the x plus h stuff and I'm going to shove that into the x. It's an instruction. So this instruction right here in blue is saying, look at the g function and everywhere you see an x, shove in x plus h. All of this stuff is the red highlight with x plus h shoved in. 3 times something minus 1. Oh look, there's another instruction on the top. The second instruction says, look at that g function, shove it back in for the x, but this time, shove in x. So the instruction was, shove the x in this time. Oh, there's some more stuff. Don't forget that on the bottom there's still the h. And there was a minus sign here. But this minus sign was saying subtract off whatever came afterwards, which means I'm subtracting off all of this stuff over here. So don't forget that it's applying to all the stuff that came afterwards in the second instruction. Now I'm just going to stop right there. See if that makes sense to you, because that is the most complicated thing before we simplify. So shoot me some questions if you got them. Mason.
Are those quotations?
They're brackets.
No, those are not quotations.
Sorry.
They're brackets.
Yeah.
Is there more to the question?
No.
All right. Everything I teach you is on the test. Yep. What's your name? That's going to be on your test, which means that Mr. Delmo is going to get a 0. Because his name won't be on the test. Your voice got really high pitched there. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to simplify. 3 times x, 3x. 3 times h, 3h. Don't forget about the minus 1. Oh, and then it's 3x, but there's a minus sign in front, so that's minus 3x. And then minus a minus 1 becomes plus 1. And that's all over h. And so the front stuff right here came out of the blue highlight instruction. And the other stuff came out of the pink. And now I'm going to simplify. And I notice that the 3x and the minus 3x go away. The negative 1 and the positive 1 go away. And I end up with 3h over h, or in other words, 3 is my answer.
Yes.
So h is equal to 3?
No, h is not 3. G of x plus h minus g of x all divided by h is 3.
And the answer h when h is not equal to 0.
Yeah, because you don't want to divide by 0. Let's try another one. That's kind of confusing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's try one more. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set you up for this next one. And then the algebraic simplification afterwards, I'm assuming that you can do. If you can't, you can come see me after you check your answer. But I'm gonna set up this one for you, and then you go from there. So there are 2 instructions. First instruction is right here in the purple. If I were to write that down from the purple, that says, look back at my function. My function was this stuff over here. So look back at the yellow function. I see x squared minus 2x plus 3. Everywhere I see a variable in that yellow highlight, shove in an x. So it looks like this. You might be saying to yourself, well, that's ridiculous. That's just the function. And the answer is, yeah. Because it says f of x is that yellow highlight, and they wanted us in purple to write down the function. Okay, cool. The second instruction, the one that says f of 7, is telling me to go back to that same yellow highlighted function, but this time, instead of putting in an x, wherever I see a variable, I'm going to shove in 7. So it looks like this. Something squared minus 2 times something plus 3. And this time, inside those parentheses goes 7. Now don't forget, there's still something on the bottom of this fraction. Sorry. And on the bottom, we have x minus 7. And on the top, in between those two things, there's also a minus sign. But that minus sign is applying to everything that came afterwards in the pink. So don't forget to put a bracket around that so that it gets applied to everything. Now, if you can get this far on your setup, the rest is just simplification. Any questions on the setup? Remember that you're always going back to the function. That's the most confusing thing I've seen in the past. You want to come from the purple to the yellow, from the pink to the yellow, not the other way around.